Hello and welcome. My name is Christina Andreou, and I am a Regulatory Compliance Associate at SALVUS. I will be your instructor throughout this workshop titled A Practical Guide on AML Risk Assessment and Monitoring Program. Let's begin. In this workshop, you will have access to video recordings, always available online so you can study at different times of the day and at your own rhythm. Self-study material for revision and preparation, available online through our platform or printable for offline studying, and test questions for self-assessment at key points throughout the workshop, helping you identify areas that may require a revisit. Through this course, you will acquire the necessary knowledge on how to create a robust AML monitoring program, understand the duties of the AML function, explore the AML inspection areas, and benefit from compliance tips. You will also be equipped with the latest developments in the AML field. Finally, you will get to practice the acquired knowledge with test questions. Hello and welcome. In this section, we will be exploring the Anti Money Laundering Monitoring Program features. Let's begin. Here's a quick look at what we'll be covering today. We'll begin by introducing the AML Monitoring Program, then dive into its aim and key characteristics. From there, we'll break down the types and frequency of monitoring activities, followed by the tools and methodologies used. And finally, we'll explore the structure and requirements of the AML report. Let's move on to the first section. So what exactly is an AML monitoring program? Well, it's a program that should look at every area where investment or ancillary services are offered. It doesn't just run blindly, it's designed to set clear priorities, and those are based on the AML risk assessment. In short, it's about ensuring that AML risks are thoroughly monitored and, more importantly, effectively managed. Welcome to this section of the course, in which we will talk about the anti-money laundering risk assessment. In this section, we will cover the following: the purpose of the AML risk assessment, the objectives of the AML risk assessment, and the influence of the AML risk assessment. So why do we perform an AML risk assessment? Well, think of it as the foundation for how an AML function allocates its time, effort, and resources. If you're in charge of compliance, you don't want to apply the same level of scrutiny to every client or every transaction. That would be inefficient. The purpose here is twofold. First, to ensure that your AML resources are used effectively. And second, to guarantee that risk is being monitored holistically across clients, geographies, services, and delivery channels. This assessment is what guides your monitoring efforts, your advisory focus, and even the kind of assistance you offer other teams internally. Hello and welcome to this training session on anti-money laundering inspection areas. In the next section, we will explore the critical focus points of AML inspections and see how they play a vital role in keeping organizations compliant and secure. Let's dive in. Here's a quick overview of what we will be covering in this session. We will start with the policies and procedures, including the AML CFT manual, the KYC policy, and the client acceptance policy, foundational documents that guide your compliance framework. Next, we will delve into the methodology behind AML inspections and walk through the key inspection areas that firms should be prepared to address. This will help you understand not just what's being looked at, but why it matters and how to stay one step ahead. Let's get started. Let's start with the firm's policies and procedures. It is essential to note that the firm must review and update the policies and procedures at least once a year, or whenever significant occurrences take place. As for what qualifies as significant, this includes regulatory developments, alteration on the set of investment and ancillary services provided, modifications on the firm's business plan, changes in the firm's internal procedures, restructuring or reorganization, and the firm being subject to new types or levels of risk. Moving forward to the essential policies that must be established and regularly updated, these include the AML CFT manual, KYC policy, and client acceptance policy. Welcome to this session where we'll be diving into Circular C656, a critical update from CySEC focusing on good and bad practices in AML compliance. Let's get started. Here's what we'll be covering today. First, we'll go over the key takeaways from CySEC Circular C656. Then we'll highlight some consolidated good practices. We'll follow that with a breakdown of common weaknesses and deficiencies. And finally, we'll wrap up with what CySEC expects from regulated entities moving forward. So, what is Circular C656 all about? Well, CySEC issued this circular to share some real inspection findings from 2022 and 2023. They've outlined what firms are doing well, the good practices, where firms are falling short, the common weaknesses, and a call to action to improve and align AML frameworks with legal and regulatory obligations. This isn't just a best practice memo, it's a clear signal for all of us to step up. Welcome to this section of the course in which we will discuss money laundering, terrorist financing, and the AML framework. Here's what we'll be covering in this section. We will discuss what is money laundering, the phases of money laundering, along with examples. We will have a look at the meaning of terrorist financing, the differences between money laundering and terrorist financing, the similarities between the two, the role of the supervisory authority, CySEC, the powers of CySEC, and finally the AML regulatory framework, both at EU and national levels. Let's start by defining money laundering, often abbreviated as ML. Money laundering refers to any type of income that's either derived from an illegal act or derived from a legal act, but then not declared, for instance, failing to report it under tax laws. In both of these situations, the result is a financial crime, and the income involved is treated as being generated through illegal activities. Hello and welcome. In this section, we will take a closer look at the anti-money laundering functions. Let's get started. In this section, we will discuss the levels of control, responsibilities, the effectiveness, permanence, and independence, the organizational requirements, monitoring obligations, and finally, we will have a set of question and answers regarding the AML function. Let's begin with the levels of control. There are 3 levels. In level 1, we include the business units, such as front office or sales, which own the risk and apply KYC and CDD. They also identify suspicious transactions. In second level of control, we have the compliance and AML function. They develop policies and procedures, they perform AML risk assessments, they monitor controls and remediation, and finally they report to the board and senior management. The third level of control includes internal audit, which is a fully independent body. They review the effectiveness of AML controls and governance and reports directly to the board.